In 2017, Jacob Haendel was diagnosed with a rare terminal brain condition. But while the rest of the world believed Haendel to be in a coma on death's doorstep, his mind was fully intact, able to think, hear, and sometimes even see his surroundings. This phenomenon is called locked-in syndrome. Though patients are unable to communicate due to complete paralysis, they remain awake and fully aware of their situation. In the previous segment, we revealed that after months of living in a pseudo-coma, Haendel had finally caught the attention of his medical team by a flick of his wrist. The team immediately called in an expert in nonverbal communication who was at Haendel's bedside the very next day.
She just looked over my eyes, she put her hand on my chest, and she's like very excited, and she's like, "Hi, Jake. I'm Jen. I'm here to teach you how to blink." And I felt like, honestly, I said this, so I was like, oh my God, somebody sent me an angel, right? But the way she came in there, she gave me so much positivity and confidence. Like, she knew that I was in there, whether she knew that or not, it was irrelevant.
The positivity was so encouraging because Haendel could hear his medical team continue to debate how much cognitive function he had left. This specialist was the first to acknowledge what no one else had expected, that after everything, Haendel's mind was fully intact. The two of them immediately got to work trying to reteach Haendel how to blink.
The first thing we get started, she's like, "Okay, Jake, I want you to really focus. I want you to make your eyes heavy, scrunch, 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 scrunch them down, push, push, push. Honey, it's okay. I know how hard you're working. I know you feel like it's not doing anything. Trust me, it is. It's going to happen. Now, shoot your eyes up. Shoot your eyes up. Open them up. Open them up. Open them up. Good. Do that again. Now let's go through another rep." And it was just repetitive that. I mean, I'm not going to lie. There was a few days there where I was just like, I don't feel like this is working.
But this was Haendel's one shot. He continued to give everything he had, and within 2 weeks, all of his effort had paid off.
Once I could blink, and it was very slow blink. It's kind of like blink if you know where you are, I'd blink. Blink if you can hear me, I'd blink. Blink if you're hot, I blink. Blink if you're cold, I wouldn't blink. She was like, "I think he's in there."
The blinking evolved into a system where Haendel would stick out his tongue for yes and blink if the answer was no. From there, they were able to move on to a letterboard so that Haendel could try out spelling a word using these signals.
And I just remember this being like over-explained to me, and I was like, yep, I fully comprehend, ready to go. And first thing I spell out probably took me 10 minutes. "I can hear you." And the whole team, medical team, is in the room, and they're like, "That's crazy." I mean, I couldn't even see everyone because I had this positional gaze, but I could feel the energy being like, whoa.
This was a major turning point. The care team started discussing sending Haendel to a rehab center. But when some members began to question his ability to do the mandatory 3 hours of daily therapy, Haendel was instantly anxious at the idea of losing this opportunity.
My heart machine starts going off, and Jen, my SLP, who taught me this letterboard, was like, "Calm down, honey. Do you want to say something with the letterboard?" And I just wrote out, "I can do 3 hours." And that's what really changed everything, because they were like, okay, not only is he somewhat with it, he's tracking our conversation. And that's when they really kind of understood the magnitude of cognition I had, I think.
Haendel continued advancing his nonverbal communication skills over the next few months at the rehab center. But even with all of his success, there was one question he'd been avoiding. Was he still dying from the toxic disease that had started this journey? When that thought finally grew too big to ignore, he worked up the courage to ask his physical therapist.
And I was like, am I still terminal? Because I was working so hard in therapy, and I was like, that'll be crazy if I only have like 2 months left, but would I do it any different? No, I'd probably still want to talk and whatnot and work as hard as I could. But she was like, "No, you beat this."
Now, 6 years later, Haendel's moved back home to Boston and gets around in his wheelchair while continuing physical therapy. He's traded in his culinary dreams for a new passion, making the world more accessible. Though many navigation apps have accessibility features, Haendel quickly realized that they didn't do much to help past the bare minimum.
I got kind of sick of that accessibility icon, the wheelchair icon they put on everything from, Google, Apple Maps to physical locations. And I was just like, that doesn't tell you much, because everything on Google Maps is like decor and food and the bar. But I want to know about the entrance and the elevator and the table height and how loud it is.
After staring death in the face and coming away victorious, Haendel was being held back by the lack of tools available. The more independence Haendel gained, the more frustrated he became.
I'm kind of like this guy in the wild, and I start like connecting with old friends, making new friends, families inviting me places, and I just have so much anxiety about going anywhere because I can't find out the accessibility information. I mean, the amount of hours I'd spend on Google and Yelp trying to like Mod Podge the data to like make a determination if I can go there and like use a bathroom or get in the entrance or like whatever. And I start asking my therapy team, I'm like, am I the only one who's like, I want to go to things? I mean, I just like survived the impossible, but I'm like, I said I was going to a wedding, but I've been losing sleep every night because I can't find out. And then my therapist was like, you got anyone who could like take a picture of like the bathrooms and the entrance? And I was just kind of like, why doesn't this exist?
So Haendel and his friends took it upon themselves to create Ahoy, an accessibility-focused app. It uses community feedback to create ultra-specific navigation and location reviews, like showing when there's not a curb cut on a sidewalk. During his own time in rehab, Haendel realized that accessible infrastructure impacts so many more people than he'd ever imagined.
I guess I was like super naive, and I kind of thought like you were either like born in a wheelchair, even me saying that out loud sounds like kind of dumb, or like you get in a car accident or like a skiing accident and you're now in a wheelchair. I didn't know there was recovery, which sounds like crazy, but my eyes were like open to this. And that's when I first saw how many unique barriers there are.
The team has focused its efforts on Massachusetts and has plans to soon expand into a couple more states. Haendel ultimately wants this type of detailed information to be available everywhere.
This absolutely should be built into your Apple phone or built into Google Maps. There's no reason for Ahoy to do what it's doing if it hadn't been done, like we don't want to reinvent the wheel, but the fact is they're just not doing it. This is much more than folks in wheelchairs. This is the aging population. This is folks with sensory needs. This is 25% of the population, maybe even more.
You can find more information about Ahoy, Jacob Haendel, and all of our guests on our website, radiohealthjournal.org. For more behind the scenes, follow Radio Health Journal on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Our writer-producer is Kristen Farah. Our production manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Greg Johnson.